Today, I've got an amazing opportunity and I'm about to interview Stu Black from Games Workshop. Now, Stu is one of the main people behind Warhammer 10th edition, and this is an interview I've been really looking forward to, and he's going to take the time to answer my burning questions about 10th edition, which we can share with you. My first question for you, Stu, is what is one of the biggest challenges that you faced with creating a new edition?
Yeah, great question. So there's probably two really. So time and scale. So starting a new edition from scratch, we've got over, I think around about 2,000 units in the game now. So there's just a scale challenge on the kind of the amount of units to look at, and we've written all of those from the ground up. So we've looked at every unit, every miniature, and kind of gone how do we best represent that in the game. So that obviously is a lot of time spent doing that, and yeah, really trying to get underneath the hood of the kind of design goals that we had, and make sure that everything that we did worked towards those goals. So I think those were the two biggest ones: was the amount of time required and just the scale of it. You know, it's a really big game. It's 40K.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely fantastic, and yeah, I think it's something in which I'm really looking forward to. So my next question for you is around competitive 40K, as that's kind of our main focus, and obviously we love playing in tournaments. So what do you think 10th edition is going to look like for competitive players and the tournament scene?
So I'm really excited actually to see how that plays out. We've got some great plans here for kind of competitive play in the new edition. So one of the things we really wanted to try and do was bring together the kind of two strands of matched play in the mission design. So you know, in previous editions we've had the kind of Maelstrom of War, which became Tempest of War. That kind of flexible, thinking on your feet type of mission that players really enjoyed. And then we had the kind of more pre-planned, more thought out kind of mission goals in the GT packs like Nachmund and Arcs of Omen. And one of the things we really wanted to do in this edition is bring those two together and give the choice to the player at the table. So you know, you might choose to go fixed and choose some fixed missions for your secondaries. We'd be playing the same primary, but I might choose the slightly more gambling approach to the secondaries, and actually want to play in a more reactive way. And I think that giving players choice of that at the table really impacts the choices that you might make as a player in list design. So I think, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out kind of in the wild, as it were, in terms of competitive play. We're also working on with our events guys, with Mike Brandt and his team, on a probably 6-monthly kind of competitive play pack, which effectively gives some guidance on running events, but also on some of the mission combinations that work really well for a more competitive event where the results of one game affect the next one. So there's so many options when you're using the Leviathan card deck for different mission layouts, different objectives, and the combinations of those give you really kind of varied play. But actually, if you're running an event for 300 people, you want them to be playing the same mission in round 1, and then a different mission in round 2. You don't want everybody in the event all playing completely different missions. So part of what that pack will do is kind of make some suggestions. So it might say, we recommend that this particular deployment zone setup, this set of primary missions, and this mission special rule make a great mission for an event play. So it'll always be, you know, TOs can run their events however they like. But there's quite a lot of wisdom and knowledge built up over the years within the events team that we really wanted to share with people, and help people as well if they're practicing for an event. They can kind of know the types of missions they might be playing, but they're still really familiar to casual players. It's exactly the same mechanics, it's the same missions. It's just rather than drawing them randomly at the start of every mission, you know, the particular TO's pack might say, round 1, we're playing this combo. So people can get some practice games in. But it should be a really seamless kind of journey from casual play into competitive play, back to casual play, without any kind of barriers in between.
So to summarise then, Stu, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can basically take this pack to, you know, play at your friends, deal out the cards, see what you can have there, or you could take it to the local club, you could play fixed secondaries, you can play tactical, and then you guys are going to put together like a pairing system of like this deployment with this map and this mission rule, like a good cheese and wine pairing, so that basically we can have fun but fair and balanced games when we come to tournaments. So my next question for you is, what is your favourite thing about Warhammer 40k 10th edition?
Well, that's like which one of your kids is your favourite, isn't it? That's me. So there's lots, I think. I think if I had to pick probably a couple, I think list design. I think the freedom that we've given players in the way that you build an army, I think is really neat. I think on first glance it looks like quite a radical departure from the past, but I think people who've been playing using like the Arcs of Omen mission pack, it's not actually that much different in terms of the kinds of lists that you build. It's just way, way, way simpler and much easier for players to understand. So I think, yeah, list design is an army list is a big one. And then I think mechanically, probably Battle Shock is the thing I'm most excited about. I think it really captures that mix of morale, combat readiness, whether a unit's pinned, and the way it interacts with your ability to play stratagems on things or your ability to hold objectives, I think gives players a lot of different tools. So rather than taking an objective off an opponent just by killing the unit, you can actually battle shock it and therefore degrade its ability to hold that objective. And the timings of some of those where battle shock works and the way you score secondaries, I think there's quite a lot of sophistication in there for kind of more competitive players to really get under the skin of and really kind of master. But in a kind of slightly more casual way, you're still playing the same game. So I think battle shock's probably my favourite like new mechanic. And I guess lastly, just the opportunity to go back and look at every miniature in the game and go, how do we make this cool and exciting? How do we make sure every unit has a role? Like, why would you want to take Tactical Marines? Why would you want to take Tau Fire Warriors when you can take Dreadnoughts and all the big stuff? And actually really kind of digging into that, making sure every unit has a battlefield role that it does. So that was a really exciting part of it as well.
Awesome. I think, I couldn't agree more, Stu. And having like each unit be a tool in the toolbox in your army selection is awesome. So continuing on from that type of question then, one of the best things, in my opinion, was the quarterly balance updates. This allowed the game to stay fresh, current, and also address any sort of imbalance issues in the game, which allows then all factions to kind of compete as best as they possibly can. Is this something that's going to continue for 10th edition?
In essence, yes. We'll always be looking at the game and trying to make sure that it's as fun and as fair as it can be for everybody. I think we've struck probably the right balance, no pun intended, between kind of frequency. We could update the game every weekend based on the latest data. Everyone would go insane and you'd never know quite what the rules were. Or we could update it once every 5 years, and actually you would maybe get a little bit of a lag there with players feeling like their faction's been left behind. So we think quarterly is about the right cadence. One of the things we're going to do with 10th edition is use points a bit more often as the core balancing mechanic. So we're going to invert the current way around. So quarterly we'll update the points values, and then every 6 months, if we need to, we'll do a balanced data slate more similar to what we've done in 9th. But we think changing points values and recalibrating those is the best balance mechanic from a player experience. It doesn't change what your models do, doesn't change what your army does. It just effectively changes the currency that you're paying to field those units. And players will see that the points values are going to be online. So it's quite easy to see the latest ones. There'll be a new 40k app delivered on launch, all fully updated, which again will always be up to date with the latest points values. So we think points is the best lever for us to use, but that cadence is still true. So quarterly we'll update the points. Every 6 months, if we need to, we'll do a balance update, and those will coincide with any changes we might make to that competitive play pack we were talking about a little while ago. And then once a year we'll do a new mission deck. So the Leviathan mission deck, out this summer will last for 12 months, and then 12 months later we'll do a new one which will refresh the kind of primary missions, might introduce different secondaries, and will give players like a different set of challenges to solve.
So then to summarise, you basically get a quarterly digital download and then a yearly new mission pack. So that sounds pretty cool. So then my next question is, how am I going to get access to the data sheets when the new codexes come out?
So we wanted to make stepping into the new edition as easy and straightforward as everyone who already, for existing players. So the indexes will all be free, like you say. People will be able to download those, or they'll be able to buy them in card format if they want to. And then when codexes come along in the future, there'll be an app that will deliver some of that content that people can use. But the codex will be the prime way that people will get new datasheets and also new detachments. In the index, there's a detachment for each faction that tends to be your kind of combined arms version of that faction. So for Tyranids, there's a detachment in the Tyranid index, which is all of the different Tyranid creatures all fighting together. Whereas in the codex, we'll build on top of that, and there'll be a variety of different detachments players can access. So your kind of archetypal monster mash, so the Crusher Swarm. If that's someone's jam, they really want to just field all the big Tyranid monsters, there'll be a detachment that enables that with stratagems and enhancements that lean into that particular playstyle. There might be an infiltration kind of one with lictors and gene stealers, all the kind of sneaky stuff. And so codexes will really build on the index play experience.
Next question is then, if you could change one thing about 10th edition, what would it be?
So honestly, if I'd thought of it, we'd have changed it already. I think one of the great things about being able to do the game from the ground up was we could look at every element of it. And we're really happy with what we've done with 10th. And really excited to see it like in the wild. We've been working on it for the best part of 2 years, so it'll be great to see kind of players actually out there engage with it, and I'm just really excited to see how that pans out.
So my final question for you, Stu, is am I going to see you at some more competitive events this year using your Space Marines?
Oh, hell yeah. Let's face it, the only way is up, right? So I really enjoy going out to events, both as a gamer myself, but also just an opportunity to meet people, see what their experience is. One of the great things about not being a top player is I get to meet kind of maybe people who don't get to talk about their experience in the same way. Coverage of events tends to be kind of focused, rightly so, on the kind of top table experience and how those players are finding the game. Me being somewhere nearer the bottom means that actually I get to meet people who maybe it's their first event or they just go to events and play casually. And it's a great way of kind of seeing what it's like out there in the real world. But yeah, my Marines will be out there, probably some Necrons as well. I'm also painting up some Iron Warriors at the moment for the new edition. So yeah, I'll definitely be out at events.
Well, Stu, I look forward to seeing you at more events. And yeah, massive thank you for coming on today's show and answering my questions. And yeah, look forward to 10th edition. It's been an exhilarating ride and it cannot come quick enough.
Great. See you soon, mate.
So there we have it. A massive thank you to Stu for taking the time to answer my questions on Warhammer 40k 10th edition. And if you want to hear some more fantastic interviews, then check out our friends such as Matt from Mini Wargaming.
Here you go, Steve. Ah.
Thank you, Matt. And all of our other friends such as Play on Tabletop, Tabletop Titans, and of course Tabletop Tactics. They've also done some amazing interviews with Stu as well. Lawrence, catch!
Oh, thanks, Stephen. But I won't be needing this anymore. Hey, Nick.
So once again, thank you so much, Games Workshop, for taking the time to answer our questions. And we'll see you on some epic 10th edition battle reports. So like, subscribe, and go check out all the others. See you soon.